The fact that the law doesn't explicitly mention small-scale farmers, I think that's the first problem. The fact that the law says, hey, as a farmer who is growing hybrids, you actually shielded from, let's say, being sold fake seeds, right? So if someone sells you fake seeds, they will get this kind of penalty, and that's written in law. The problem with that is that they explicitly do not mention indigenous seeds. So the fact that the law doesn't do that, it leaves the enforcer to interpret the law in whichever way they want. It's more of shielding hybrids than actually shielding the indigenous seeds. And that's where the problem is. Because if you don't do that explicitly in the law, then it gives the enforcer of the law to do whatever they want. And that's where I think the main problem is with this particular law.
You know, what is important is to understand the law in totality. This is why I told you I've gone back to study law. Because I find it fascinating that as much as sometimes we tell ourselves we understand the law, we do not. You know, when people say the law is clear, or as you are saying the law is unclear, the question of what is clear and what is unclear is never answered. And even with lawyers, you see when they are debating, I think my favorite is when they were debating about Chebukati and the elections, and they were saying, you know, so there's one lawyer, they have gone to the same university, taught by the same professors. One is saying the IBC chair can announce the results. And the other one is saying it is the commission to announce that. And they are both lawyers, and they are reading the same law. So I think understanding the law in totality, and the only people who can define this thing is not even lawyers. The only people who can shed light on this topic is proper agriculture experts who understand this topic. Lawyers will confuse all these things. I've talked about the constitutional provision and the instruction, explicit instruction to Parliament to develop legal framework that recognizes farmers as the owners of seed.
I think that's where the problem is, because there's no such a law.
There is. Now, the law is the 2015 amendment of the Seed and Plant Varieties Act. If you read it, in fact, the memorandum, this was pushed by Aden Duale. He was then the leader of majority. Because remember, after the 2010 constitution, Parliament was in a process of revising all the legal frameworks to align with the constitution. Because it is an illegality to have a law that contradicts the mother law. And 2015, an amendment was passed in Parliament. It's what some people refer to the 2016 amendment, but it's actually written 2015 amendment, which explicitly refers to the constitutional provision under Article 11. The memorandum, if you read the memorandum, it refers to the constitutional provision. And the purpose of that amendment was solely to implement the constitutional recognition of farmers as the owners of seeds. How did it do it? The 2015 amendment brought on board the institution called Genetic Research and Resources Institute, GERI. Whoever is the director of GERI has failed the indigenous seed subsector, because this is the person that has been given the mandate by law, by the 2015 amendment of the Seed and Plant Varieties Act. So the current Seed and Plant Varieties Act actually provides for an institution called GERI, okay? It's hosted by CalRO at the moment. So some people also will want to debate and say, but it is not independent. How do you create an institution from the air? You have to host it somewhere so that it grows. If the people who are running GERI have not been able to run it, they should quit. That is the simple definition. Yeah, they should quit. Whoever is the director of GERI has been given an opportunity for the last 10 years to really develop this space of indigenous seeds and even seed banks. You know, it even provides for them to create a mechanism for farmers to be able to save their seeds and exchange their seeds. This is the law that I'm reading, I'm talking about. So it is not that it is not there. People are ignoring, and I think people decide to be ignorant sometimes and say, we don't want to read the 2016 amendment. We do not want to read. The fact that, if I ask you, Brian, the fact that now the law strives to even get to a point of establishing a legal institution for the management and access sharing of indigenous seed, is that not progressive? Is that not recognizing? The law you cannot write a statement in the law to say, ati tukue na clause kwa sheria inasema, now farmers can do what they want with the seed. No, the law does not allow you to do what you want. You are allowed to do what you want. It is you to align with the law. Okay? Today, there is no farmer who has ever been arrested for exchanging seed. If we leave this studio now, Sahi, we go to the biggest food markets in Nairobi, you will find farmers selling seed. Seed. Then it will be labeled. The same hii ni mbegu, hii ni managu ya mbegu, hii unataka mbegu enda ndio hii. If we go to Kisii, we will find them. I know you are, when you are farming now, you are buying seed, you also buy seed from farmers, and you also sell seed. Has anyone ever arrested you? No.
That is something we have to avoid. We can't just sit and say, because it hasn't happened, it will never happen.
And this is not what I'm proposing. What I'm saying is the law has already been amended to the extent possible to provide for recognition, and not only recognition, but provide institutional support for farmer-managed seed system. That's why I'm saying my blame lies squarely on whoever, because the law says there will be a director of the institution. Whoever is the director of Gary should come forward and explain what they have done with that institution for the last 10 years. Because it is that institution that can come and say, let us bring these civil society actors who are saying they really care about this seed issue. Okay? I've been in that space before, I know, and I'm still talking about farmers' rights and all that. I'm not saying this because I don't care about farmers' rights. I know what I'm giving is very practical information, that it is that person to come and tell us. The 2015 amendment provided for not only recognition, but institutional mechanism for managing indigenous farmer-managed seed systems. You cannot manage indigenous farmer-managed seed systems the same way with the commercial seed sector. The law that is there, as before 2015, the law that was there basically was managing the commercial seed sector. Why? Because of livelihood issues, because of plant health protection, and this is why KEFIS exists. You know, someone can do something. Mtu anaweza kutoa mbegu ya, you know, now we have a weed called ipomea in Kajiado and other places. If you go and buy their grass seeds, you take them to Kisii, what will you have done? You will have transferred the ipomea, which is a big menace in Kajiado, to Kisii, if it can grow there. I know it likes the dry areas. So there has to be a law. When you're talking about supporting indigenous, organic, agroecological food systems, it does not mean that you don't need laws. Laws are needed. And a typical Kenyan farmer, I will challenge you to tell me, if you have ever met any Kenyan farmer, and a serious farmer by that means, I don't mean TikTok farmers, I mean a serious farmer, who has never bought seed from the shop. And even you as a farmer, tell me if you have never bought seed from the shop. You'll always, it's not a sin. You know, when I go to my farm, I can say, for black nightshade, for managu, I don't need to buy the seed from the shop. I can buy from my neighbors. Okay? But for maize, if I want to do 10 acres of maize, my friend, I will buy from Kenya Seed.